With plenty of mid to end of season updates which buffed and nerfed many exotics throughout Destiny, I think it's a great time to cover some of the best exotic armor pieces in the game for solo players. Just before you jump to the comments and start typing out saying that this exotic is better, this list was developed with the help of many Destiny 2 players and how popular said exotic armor is. So if you do go on to enjoy this video, feel free to drop a like, subscribe, comment, and all of that good stuff down below. This list has been developed with 9 pieces of exotic armor, which is 3 for each class. The exotic armor that will be in this list is all about helping you as a guardian by yourself, just like the title of this video. So you won't be seeing any exotic armor in this list that helps other teammates in your fire team, like Lunafactions or the Ursa Furiosa for Titans. But anyway, let's get straight into this list with Destiny 2's best class, the Warlock. The first of 3 exotics that I've chosen is obviously going to be the Sun Bracers. The Sun Bracers have to be the best piece of exotic armor that the Warlocks have in their loadouts. So obviously I'm going to have to throw it on the list. With the ability to have infinite solar grenades, infinite uptime of restoration ×2, and heat rises, you can't really say no to this exotic piece of armor. Having restoration ×2 is basically the exact same as standing in a well of radiance, however you are constantly running around with 10 seconds of restoration ×2. Now I do understand that getting restoration ×2 and also heat rises doesn't actually come from having the Sun Bracers on, but in order to maintain these buffs and have constant restoration ×2, you need to get solar kills, and this is where the Sun Bracers come in handy. All you have to do is get a melee kill with the Sun Bracers equipped, and you can throw at almost infinite solar grenades until the timer runs out. But with the help of some mods and other class aspects, it's very simple to get your melee back within a couple seconds. Running around with ×2 restoration, infinite grenades, and the ability to Icarus dash and cure yourself whenever you need, it's pretty obvious why this is one of the most favorite and popular exotics that the Warlocks have, making you practically unkillable. The next piece of exotic armor is also in the arm slot, and it is none other than the Contraverse holds. The best thing about the Contraverse holds is that it requires you to use a Void subclass, and Void subclasses excel when you are by yourself, making it perfect for solo guardians. The way these gauntlets works is it requires you to pull in your grenade and overcharge it, making it do twice as much damage and also last for a lot longer. Once you throw this grenade out, any damage that it does will also give you that grenade energy back, making it almost an infinite loop. Hold to overpower your grenade, throw it out into a couple enemies, and within seconds you've got that grenade back. So not only do you get to spam out overpowered grenades, if you set your build up correctly, you can also make these grenades give you some other benefits. Just to mention a few, you can have infinite uptime of volatile rounds, you can also have infinite devour procced, and you can also weaken all of these enemies to make it so that you do even more damage to them. With a couple mods on there, you can also get your super incredibly fast with Ashes to Assets. This is an incredible build, and I find myself using this when I'm playing by myself, trying to solo an activity like a dungeon or a Grandmaster Nightfall. Moving on to the final piece of armor, I have chosen the Fallen Sunstar. The Fallen Sunstar is incredibly underrated by almost every Warlock. They don't understand the power that this exotic can actually give you. As it states, Ionic Traces you create move faster and grant you additional ability energy. So as you know, whenever you're playing an Arc subclass, every time you kill anything with any Arc abilities or Arc weapons, it has a chance of creating an Ionic Trace. With the Fallen Sunstar equipped, it makes these Ionic Traces move almost twice as fast towards you and also give you almost double the amount of ability energy that a normal Ionic Trace would give you. With this improved ability regeneration, it almost gives you an infinite uptime of Arc ability spam. With the ability to run around and put healing rifts everywhere, grant everyone Arc souls, have the ability to throw out infinite pulse grenades, and use charged melees all the time, it is completely underrated and also super powerful. I honestly recommend if you haven't tried this build out, it is a lot of fun. Let's move over to the next class and let's cover Titans. The first exotic on this list is the Synth, arguably the best piece of exotic armor in the entire game. As we all know, Titans excel when they get in and around the enemies, doing massive damage around them with melees and ability spam. The best way to summarize the Synth is it just buffs melee damage on the Titans when they are surrounded. One of the best builds in the game, and specifically for Titans, is the Solar Bonk build. This build literally requires nothing except for the Synth and the throwing hammer. With the right setup and the Synth equipped, you can throw this hammer for upwards of 60,000 damage depending on what activity you're doing, but this is enough to basically one-shot everything in the entire game except for mini bosses and bosses. This exotic will also buff the Strand Super Berserker on the Titan to make it do some ridiculous damage. It's safe to say that whenever I play Titan, I simply just use the Synth, and so should you. The next exotic that I've chosen isn't as oppressing as the Synth, but it is still super powerful, and it is the Avent Leaps. As this piece of exotic states, Drenga's Lash spawns 2 additional projectiles, it tracks more targets aggressively, and it travels further. Not to mention, it will also give you Woven Mail when you suspend targets. It's pretty common knowledge that Strand is used to crowd control enemies inside of Destiny 2, and putting the Avent Leaps on makes this infinitely easier, and also makes it a lot easier to survive by giving you almost an infinite uptime of Woven Mail. In the recent season, Bungie tried to nerf Strand and by suspending targets, but with the Avent Leaps on, it still is very simple and still one of the best crowd control exotics in the game. As a solo player, it can get pretty tough out there to control and deal with multiple mini bosses or champions or something similar, and by equipping the Avent Leaps, it makes it a lot easier and also gives you a massive damage reduction. So if you haven't given the Avent Leaps a try yet, I would definitely recommend you do. Now the final exotic that I've chosen is the Heart of Inmost Light for the Titans. This exotic piece of armor is so good that Bungie has tried to nerf this on multiple occasions, up to a point where they reduced its ability regeneration by 50%. But that still wasn't enough because the Heart of Inmost Light is still one of the best exotic Titan pieces of armor. Basically, the way this piece of exotic works is whenever you use one ability, it's going to buff all of your other abilities. Now, what they mean by buffing is it makes abilities do a lot more damage, and it will also regenerate those abilities a lot faster. The best thing about the Heart of Inmost Light is it is a very versatile piece of exotic armor. So, whether you use it on Void, Arc, Solar, Titan, or Strand, it's going to buff and improve regeneration of every single subclass's abilities. And I think that's what makes it so strong. With the help of the right mods and some amazing weapon perks, this is the reason that I chose this exotic for this list, because it is amazing, especially for solo players. Anyway, let's move over to our final class, the Hunter. One of the best exotics for the Hunter is the Falcons Hauberk. This exotic is perfect for all solo hunter players out there. As it states, emerging from being invisible will grant you volatile rounds. If you emerge from being invisible by finishing an enemy, it's also going to give all of your weapons bonus damage, and you plus your allies will gain an overshield. Throw in the right aspects to proc Devour, you now have bonus damage and overshield, volatile rounds, Devour, and the ability to go invisible and restart the rotation all over again. Using a super strong Void Pulse Rifle like the Graviton Lance, these two combined is actually unkillable and unbeatable in almost every Destiny 2 activity. Whether that's a Grandmaster Nightfall or you're just looking for some fun in normal Nightfalls, this build is completely broken and I recommend you guys give it a go. Next on the list is another super powerful exotic, the Assassin's Cowl. This is another great exotic hunter armor piece, which when you get powered melee final blows, it's going to grant you invisibility, grant you health and shields back. The right way to play this is by using the mods that grant you all of your charged melee back whenever you do a dodge. So the rotation is pretty simple. Kill an enemy with a melee, dodge, you're now invisible and you've got all of your health back. You can then kill another enemy and dodge, and again, the rotation just continues forever. If you do this build right, you get infinite orbs of power, and you are constantly invisible at full health. It is basically unkillable. Everyone knows about this build, it is super powerful, and it's the reason that I put it on this list. Now, the final exotic that I want to put on here for the hunters is none other than the Lucky Pants. As a solo player, it can be hard to do the damage that is needed to blow up mini-bosses and bosses in certain activities, and this is where the Lucky Pants comes in your favor. If you set this build up right, you can get almost 1000% damage boost to your hand cannon whenever you proc the Lucky Pants. The Lucky Pants buff lasts for 10 seconds and then it goes on cooldown for 10. So realistically, every 10 seconds, you can be doing 1000% increased damage with your hand cannon. It is actually absurd how much damage this hand cannon can do with the right setup. There's plenty of videos out there on YouTube. There is one on my channel where I specifically show you how to do this and get the most damage possible out of it. So if you haven't seen that video, go into my channel and check it out. But this build is completely broken and I would recommend you try it, especially as a solo player if you're struggling with damage. But anyway, Guardians, that will wrap the list up there. Thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy this video, feel free to drop a like and subscribe down below. Let me know in the comments down below what your favorite and most used exotic piece of armor is for your subclass. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Later.